So good afternoon. My name's Ian Taylor, and welcome to the Evident Proof demo. Now, we run these demos twice weekly at around 10 a.m. on a Tuesday and 4 p.m. now on a Thursday, London time. And the purpose of the demo is to give you an overview of what Evident Proof is, how it works. And what we'll do is we'll run through a sample workflow from one of the clients that are using the Evident Proof system to store their data immutably. So, what is Evident Proof? So, Evident Proof is an enterprise platform for storing immutable proof of evidence. So, what does this mean, and why is this important to a business? So, we take our client's data or hash of the data structure, and what we do is we convert that into something called a proof seal. Now, this can be stored in an immutable way through the Evident Proof service on a technology called the blockchain. Now, the blockchain has some unique properties as it stores data in a decentralized, distributed way across thousands of computers, meaning that the data is stored in a way where it's basically unhackable. So, storing data in an immutable way means that it can't be changed or it can't be tampered with and it can't be hacked. So, because of the way that the Evident Proof service stores your data, you could maybe take this data at a later date and use that to present it in a court of law. And this could be in a patent scenario or in an audit compliance scenario. When somebody's challenged your data, you'll be able to give proof of the evidence of your data, and that it hasn't been stored in a centralized way, which is the traditional way of storing data. And centralization has a number of vulnerabilities. It's stored by a single normally by a single service, and it can have vulnerabilities, and it can be open to abuse or the potential for people to change this. With the way that the blockchain works, it works across thousands of computers distributing that data. So if you changed one instance of that uh, data, then you would have to change thousands. So it makes it very, very difficult to hack. So we've got a number of clients using the system today. One of them is the largest supplier of government licensing taxi solutions to the UK local government. And effectively, their line of business solution deals with the checks and balances around the governance of issuing a taxi license. So, why would it be important for them to prove that their data has not been tampered with and it's been stored in an immutable way? So earlier this year, there were a number of reports in the UK press from The Guardian, which stated that last year alone in the UK, 150,000 taxi licenses were issued to drivers, and some of these had criminal convictions, drink driving bans. So therefore, at this point, there was a real burden of proof on the company, and obviously, more importantly, the local government to prove that they'd carried out the checks and balances required um, to prove that somehow this hadn't been falsified and by somebody who may have gained access to their data. So, using the Evident Proof service, they're now able to prove that all of these checks and balances have been made and that the data hasn't been tampered with. So, it's a very large full line business application that the taxi licensing software has. But what we could do is we could look down at the process of how a simulation of how they go ahead and use the solution. So what I'm going to do now is show you very quickly how the data passes from a standard line of application through to the Evident Proof solution and how it creates a proof seal that you could then take and present that in a court of law. So what I'm going to do quickly is create a taxi license, and this could be any line of business application. And what we would do is we would therefore map over the get data schema that you've got, and we could and that data then would be passed through to the Evident Proof platform that would then go and store this data through the blockchain using our unique service and create proof seals that then could be accessed and produced in a court of law. So although we're looking at a very simple form here, it could be any data that needs to be stored from your line of business applications. And again, we would work with you to understand what data would need to be stored to comply with the governance that you needed to put around that. So let's just go ahead and create a quick application. Tom Inter, that's a very unique name, isn't it? So I'm going to tick that the license is active. We've carried out a criminal record check and we've performed that. Now, this could have been made up of PDFs. It could have been made up of many number of documents, even documents from third parties that we could record through the platform. So in this case, we're going to use and we're going to tick to confirm that we've done an identity check. And again, this would be associated with a number of different documents that could be live are being pushed through to the platform. So I've now created that document. And as you can see, Tom Inter has been created on the platform. So what's actually happened here is the data's been sent to the evident proof system, and then it's converted into a proof seal, and that's been sent off to the blockchain where it's stored in a distributed way. So if we go into the evident proof platform, if we go into the proof seals, and here we can see we've just created this new license here. So let's run through a little bit to describe the data that we're looking at here. So initially we've got the dispatch ID. So essentially this is an API call into the service, and it's confirmation that the dispatch evidence and the data records have been sent into the evident proof service. And what we can also do is run into a little bit of how the data itself has been structured. So the evidence is in a fixed schema, and this is the way that we'd worked with you to present this data to us. So this fixed schema ensures that we can correlate between the evidence and the proof and store this on the blockchain. So we've also got the where, so this could be geolocation, but this is really determined by what you need to record. And of course, most importantly is the when. And this is a timestamp that's going to go on the blockchain to prove immutably that this actually happened at this particular moment in time. We've then got the primary service user. So the PSU is a cross-reference, and this is the key that relates back to the data in your line of business application. So this data could really be a single key or a compound key or an ID or an asset. This is really whatever you need it to correlate back to in the source of your data systems. So we've also got the key and value, which will obviously be quite familiar to any software developers as a way of storing evidence and data. And in this scenario, as you can see, we're only storing a single key value. In fact, a dispatch could store many pieces of evidence, and these could be in the forms of documents. These could be forms or documents. We've also got the JSON representation here. So as you can see, this is just a representation of the forms data, and this could be a single field, multiple fields, a form. It could be War and Peace. It can be anything that you need to capture. And finally, we've got the proof seal. Now, this is a hash of all of this data effectively, and what the proof seal is used for is for checksum verification of the data. Now, none of your data is revealed within the seal, but it does actually prove the pulling together of all of this data. So we've then got that dispatch receipt. So this is a return to you by the API call, and effectively the receipt is your method of saying that this data has been immutably stored on the evident proof platform and through the blockchain. And there's also a key here which would relate back, so you could find this data on the evident proof platform. So we've got the proof certificate here itself. Now, we haven't generated one yet, but it's literally pulling together all of this data and information that we've discussed. And when I create this, you would be able to then present this in a court of law, and it would confirm that all of the data was stored on the blockchain in a certain way through the evident proof platform. And through the blockchain, you can prove that this has obviously been immutably stored. So let's say a year down the line, we've now had somebody come in and they've challenged the integrity of a particular piece of data, and therefore we need to go back and prove that data. So what we can do is generate a certificate. Now, I'm going to click here to do it, but normally this would be done automatically through an API call from your line of business application, and we've now created that certificate. So when you create a proof certificate, what happens is we'll pull out a request, and this goes off to the blockchain and checks the data, then the seal, and then finally checks that it matches our source data. So if we click on the certificate here, we can see everything here looks really familiar. Now, all of this could be customized to fit in with your own governance structure of what data that you would want to prove has been stored immutably and therefore is unhackable. So the only thing that looks different here is we've got a transaction ID, which is really the key here to the certificate, proving that this taxi license data example is as it is and could be presented in a court of law. So realistically, everything here we've done has been sort of reasonably basic at a very low level in terms of storing the data, but you can see how simple it is and how the Evident Proof platform works to store your data immutably. With every club, we work with them very closely to understand the governance around that data, and also this can include customizing the proof certificates and customizing how the line of business application would push the data through to the Evident Proof platform to store it. Now, if you've got any questions, please pop them over on Telegram, and if you've got any questions about token economics as well, please put them over as well. Otherwise, we look forward to presenting to you next Tuesday at 9 o'clock. That's great. Thank you.